Sensitivity is intelligence. With grace and skill, you have abundance. Welcome to the Psychic Hour. Host Kelly Brickle is a psychic medium healer, numerologist, and teacher. Her passions are learning about the soul and energy. Whether it's through spirit, emotion, or vibrational numbers, there's always a pathway of information waiting to help. Now, here is your host of the Psychic Hour, Kelly Brickle.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Psychic Hour on WLTKDB, Let's Talk Radio. We have our interview series today, and we have the lovely Beecher on the show, so I'll be talking to her in a little bit. And with the interview show, it's your chance to interact. We'll be talking about life, mediumship, psychic, whatever is in the vein of energy. If you have a question while we're talking, you can pop it down, and we take it a little bit later in the show. So if you have something in mind, that's how you do it, and that's how you interact. And so, hello, everybody, as they're coming in. Hello, B. So we always dive into a topic of the day to warm up the show, and really what came to mind today, because, I really allow it to flow. Sometimes I write things ahead of time, and then I wake up and I go, you know what? I'd kind of rather talk about this. Or sometimes I start talking and then the topic just naturally changes, right? So it naturally changes to what I felt originally kind of when I woke up or what I was thinking about. So I let myself really be inspired. And it's something that I don't really think through. I just allow it to happen more so. And so to give you some perspective on this, hello, Kevin. When I was waking up today, I was thinking, okay, so like, what's the topic, right? And sometimes it hits me right in the beginning, and sometimes it takes time. So this was one of the days where it took time. I'm like, okay, I'm waiting. What's the topic for today? And it was just nothing. And I'm just like, that's okay. It will come. And so I'm getting ready, and I'm eating and stuff like that, or I'm getting ready to eat, and I'm just like, like, I know it's gonna come. Like, I have faith, but I'm kind of like, not pure annoyance, right? But I was kind of like, come on, I have a job to do. Where is it? Right? And so anytime I get emotion infused with what I'm thinking, that's a sign for me to go, oh, there's something here. So I was aware of my slight annoyance and my confusion that nothing was coming, because I'm like, my mind's like nonstop. Of course there's something, like, I'm constantly juggling things. Of course there's something that will inspire me to talk about, but there was nothing. So I was just like, oh, okay. Well, spirit is awful quiet today. And that's the topic of the day. Sometimes it seems like spirit goes quiet, and you're like, what do I do with that, right? And you can feel that in so many different categories with just how you connect and how you work with the spirit world. You could do it in a professional setting. You're like, wow, okay, the connection just doesn't feel as strong. There's that. Or you just really have to put your trust in because you're walking blindly. And then there's also times where you have made a commitment. Let's just say you're meditating at home and you sit down, or you're talking with your loved ones or your team that encourages you throughout life, and you're like, why are sat down for guidance, and I just hear nothing. I just hear nothing. And that's a lot. That's a common thing I hear with people, honestly, that when they're developing, think about it. When you've had a teacher, that's probably a question that you've asked. I'm not getting anything. It's not working. Not getting anything. And really, most times it's about either slowing down within your own life, or slowing down, breathing, and allowing yourself to ground more actually within the connection, because our mind's going so fast. To ease on in, usually there's a quality of that, or to use the energy as evidence. Maybe all of a sudden somebody feels apathy. You're not going to get any emotion. Maybe somebody all of a sudden, while you're connecting to them, you're seeing just darkness when you look at their future. And it could be connected to hope or despair, or they don't know the next step. And that's very real, like you're tuning into the soul's journey. Sometimes the energy is just going to be like, wow, there's not a lot like sparking this. There's not a lot of awareness here. The energy is very muted. And that can come in so many different forms. Sometimes it's like nothingness. I know, when I'm covering all across the board with what it means when I get nothing, or in my life when I've gotten nothing. So this is how I was inspired to talk about. So, sometimes in meditation you just see black, right? You just see black, and you're like, "Oh, I'm not seeing anything." And really, there's a lot of subtlety going on. Sometimes it forces you to just be in the body, be with your emotions, and be present in a different way. And other times when you just relax, actually these beautiful like little streams of color come in, but they're so subtle that you just see black at first, and you're like, what is this? What is this? It's not working. And it's just like, think about it. We don't wake up in the morning the same way. We don't start our day the same way every morning. Some people are more consistent, but sometimes you're not going to drink your coffee. Sometimes you're going to wake up and you feel like $1,000,000. And other times you're going to feel sluggish, or maybe you have pain. And that's like life. Well, it's the same way we start up our energy. And really it does mirror what's going on with our life, or it mirrors what really we need to learn with our energy, whether it's patience, understanding, to find something we just did not expect, that silver lining. But ultimately, I really find that when my connection is a little bit wobbly, it's because I have to slow down in my own life, right? So I might be like doing readings or doing classes, and I'm just like, this is great. But like, the energy is so fast, and sometimes you don't have a chance to catch your breath. And so like I'll look around my house and I'll go like, oh, um, I better do some laundry. I better organize a couple of things. And then I'm aware that my energy starts to feel rather compressed because I've been going too fast. And it's like everything is actually right there. That's like the whole thing. Like when I couldn't feel today or think, or I wasn't inspired the same way, right? It was because not that it wasn't there. Like spirit was all around me, guiding me, you know? Like everything was active. It was just there was a part of me that needed to slow down, or there was a part of me that needed to hear this quite like this. So there's always a reason. And when we go, I'm just going to trust, I'm just going to be at peace, that's when things come. And granted, they could be, again, very small, very subtle. And you're just like, that's all I got. But you got something. But you got something. And the gratitude within that, and the remembrance in that, that you got something, whether it was, a reminder of grandma, and, just the way that she looked when you'd visit her, or like her favorite colors, or just she flashed you a smile when you thought about her, or when you just sat down and meditated. I don't know, maybe you saw a flash of something that really caught your eye, and you're like, well, that was unique, even though it lasted for 0.5 seconds. Just savor and cherish everything that you get, and know that it all links to the bigger picture for yourself, where your energy is going, where your spirit is leading you, and where spirit is leading us. There's always a reason. So continue to have faith, patience, and just slow down and take it as it comes. And there's always a message, even in what seems like the darkness or the nothingness, or something not to be expected. There's always something. And spirit really makes sure of that, because spirit is all full of purpose and creation and wonder. So I invite you to think like that on something that you've, I guess, been searching for lately, or been wanting to find within your own spiritual practice and experiences. I invite you just to look at it slightly different way. With that said, sending love out to you. And we're going to be tuning in with our guest in just a moment with Luann. And so we'll see you in a moment. Hello and welcome back. It goes like that. We're going to bring Luann in. Hello.
Hi.
Hey, how
How
you
are
doing?
you?
I'm
Good. How are
doing good.
you?
I'm doing good. It's great to see you.
It's good to see you too.
Yeah, we're feeling blues today, like a
Yes,
little lighter blues and stuff like that.
for
Oh
sure.
man, it's always nice to see you. I want to give you a warm welcome and introduce you to everybody to begin. Luann Beecher is a spiritual medium, healer, and teacher. She started her mediumship journey in the 1990s and has had the honor of studying with many reputable spiritual teachers over the past 25 years. Luann is the owner of Serenity Guides in Maryland and teaches psychic mediumship and healing courses. She also hosts spiritual retreats, workshops, and events in the United States. Welcome, Luann.
Thank you. Wow. I was just thinking while I was sitting here, July will be 10 years that we've met each other. It was 2013.
Yes, yes, July 20. Correct. I think about that day. It floats in my mind often. And I didn't think about it was exactly 10 years. So,
Almost.
wow.
Yeah.
It-
It's been a wild ride for the last 10 years, hasn't it?
A lot of growth, a lot of
hmm
discovery. Um, does it feel like 10 years to you?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't feel like 10 years at all. It so much has changed, but in wonderful ways. I almost feel like 10 years ago, when we met, that was almost like the springboard to allow me to really embrace all of the spiritual aspects that I'd been kind of tampering with a little bit, exploring, but it really gave me permission to own who I was and to be who I am. Because I know for a lot of people, when they start out doing mediumship development, you say it behind closed doors, And for me, I would call it my meditation classes, and nobody questioned it. But then when I claimed being a medium, I think that was the springboard to allow myself to own who I am.
I definitely can relate to that, and it was such a powerful class. Like, we were there
Mhm,
for 5 days, and during, those 5 days, so Lisa Williams was our teacher,
mhm.
and to give everyone perspective, and it was a mediumship class, and we were very much immersed there, like, all day from the morning to night to even past, dinner time
Oh yeah.
sometimes.
Yep.
Did you come out, so, like, maybe not right away or maybe right away, I'm curious to ask you, but from 10 years ago, do you feel like just a different person? Or the
Um,
same
I
but
don't
tell
know
me.
that I'm a different, yeah, I guess I am a different person. And it's not that I'm different, it's just that I
Right,
understand who I am.
right.
And I'm okay with who I am. I'm okay with being different. Um, I think I'm actually a more compassionate and loving person because I have an understanding more of people and their struggles and grief and those kind of things that I think before that I lived in my own little bubble, and other people's stuff was other people's stuff.
Yeah.
But then
Did your
I don't know, it's just things have changed, but I think the core of me is still who I've always been. I just didn't recognize.
That makes sense. Yes, that's how I feel too. There's just certain things that are so different, but fundamentally, it's still strongly you.
Mhm.
So when you said you're much more aware of other people through your work, did your empathy change, or did you just see so many different scenarios that you're like, wow,
I think
this is
that was a
life?
lot of it. Yeah. So many different scenarios of very amazing, loving stories of support from the other side for things that people were going through, but also such tragic stories of things that happened to people that I never, ever thought that I would come across in my life.
It knocks you it knocks you off your socks a bit.
Mm-hmm. It
Yeah.
does. It does. But the healing that comes from the connection with spirit definitely makes it worth having to visit the kinds of things, the tragedies that people go through.
I agree. There's the way that tell me how it is for you, but when I get healing through whether it is actual healing or mediumship or psychic, I actually feel just more centered in my body, and my energy is just regulated, and I feel more healthy even.
Absolutely. I agree with you. And um, I know for me, the little woe is me things that we tend to focus on are really nothing in the grand scheme of life. We focus on such little annoyances that are really nothing. They're nothing. So yeah, I think it made me appreciate my life more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, okay, we met 10 years ago, but
Mhm.
your story takes you far before that. So, I'm curious because I don't know what made you, because you said, okay, I was telling people I was taking meditation classes. I didn't really talk about it. So, how did it kind of pull to you? What made you come into this in the very beginning?
I think growing up, I always had an interest in spiritual things. I was raised in the church, and so you took on those belief systems as truth. And there are still many things about the church that I absolutely love. Certain hymns and certain Bible verses still resonate with me. But there was still something in me that wanted to explore more, but I never did it. And to be honest with you, there was a lady here from England who was a medium that could connect with your loved ones in spirit. And I thought, what a bunch of fooey is that? And it was like, this is back in the 90s. It was $60 for a reading. And I thought, this lady is every hour stealing $60 from people.
That's a good amount of money in the 90s. Yeah.
So I decided to book a reading with her to prove her as a
Yes.
fake and a fraud.
I
Absolutely.
understand that. I understand that.
So I took off my wedding ring. I looked like a bag lady going in there. I had like sweatpants and old ripped up shirt, and I was probably the worst person to read. I mean, we know as mediums what it's like when people are just not really involved in the reading, and I was that. I was not giving her anything. And she came through with this man named Carl, who I could take absolutely nothing about. I had known no Carls. She was saying he was of German descent. He was surrounded by women. And I'm like, I don't know anybody named Carl. And then she brought my grandmother in. And some of the things that she started saying, there's no way she could have known. And it wasn't what she was saying. It's that I could feel the presence of my grandmother in the room.
Wow.
And something inside of me said, pay very close attention because something magic is happening. And so she told me some things about my grandmother I didn't know that later got validated by my parents. And when I went home that night, I had to tell my husband, okay, I spent $60 on this lady, you know. But before I tell you the whole thing, I have to know who Carl is. He said, Carl's my grandfather. I said,
Oh.
what's his family ancestry? He said, well, they're in Massachusetts, but I think his family was originally from Germany. And then I was like, okay, so why would he be surrounded by women? Because you know what I'm thinking when she says, oh, he's surrounded by women. And he said there were 9 children in the family and he was the only boy.
Wow.
He was the only son. So that really made me take notice. But at the end of the reading, the lady's name was Irene Netterman, and she was here from England, like I said. And at the end of the reading, she said, I have to tell you, if you don't know it, you're a medium. And there's a whole band of spirit on the other side that is just waiting for you to open the door. And I was like, oh, heck no, I'm not doing that. You got to be kidding me. I'm not doing that. So she would talk all the time about Gordon Higginson because she had studied under Gordon Higginson. And, you know, back then we didn't have internet and all that stuff. And I wish I had written every story down that she told me. But I would kind of dismiss her when she was talking about this Gordon Higginson guy. And come to find out, she was friends with Mavis Patilla. And I didn't know anything about any of that kind of stuff. But she came back the next year. So, of course, I booked a reading with her. And I said, I think I'm willing to open the door, but I only want to do it for me, only so I can connect with my own loved ones. I don't want to do it for other people. And she said, my dear, when you open the door, you don't know where it's going to lead you. So you can't say it's only for you. The door is either open or it's closed. So Irene and I opened the door, and that's how it started.
So I'm curious. So I can understand. I mean, that sounds amazing. And then she actually was very reputable because she had very reputable associations and wonderful teachers like Gordon Higginson, like and Mavis Patilla. For those tuning in, those are just like they're pioneers.
Absolutely.
They're amazing, amazing mediums. What then made you go, okay, I'm willing to open the door for me? Because that's a big jump, even just that, even if you had a good experience.
In that year between saying, no way I'm doing this, that's ridiculous, and saying, okay, I'll open the door, I started reading some books. And a number of them were by Sylvia Brown, for anybody that knows Sylvia Brown. Poor Sylvia, I think towards the end of her mediumship kind of got ruined by TV. But her books, when I was reading them and she was describing the other side and even some of the things she said about Jesus, because I said I was a churchgoer back then, and they really resonated with things that I had questioned since I was a kid about, you know, life, death, the things, you know, the crazy questions we ask ourselves.
Yeah.
And she was presenting them in a way that made sense to me. I'm very left-brained. Like things have to make sense to me. I don't just take things because somebody says it's so. I dissect it. I said my mediumship development, I call myself a snail. I did not zip through things. I very slowly took things, looked at them, revisited my beliefs. What did I still believe? What didn't I believe? So really the reading was what opened the door. And then once I agreed, Irene would work with me when she was here in the United States on my development. And, she was having circles. I didn't know what any of this stuff was, coming together and having a circle and all that. And she would have us pair up and read. And I'm thinking, this is the craziest thing. And then I found out there's a church for this stuff called spiritualism. Like, what do you mean there's a church that talks to dead people? It's like all these things I was not aware of at all. Just not aware of any of it.
No, everything that you're saying, you know what? Our journeys are actually a lot more similar than just. I can really, there's a lot of similarities, Luann. There really is. But
yeah, when Irene said to me, you really should have a church in this area, and I said, there's a ton of churches. What are you talking about? And she says, like, no, a spiritualist church. I'm like, what is that? But
yeah,
beautiful churches.
Did you what? Okay, with the circles, so that was very much new to you.
Mm-hmm.
What did you find yourself like doing in those circles? So like it was the readings, was it like certain experiences too where you were reading another person and you're like, whoa, I knew that this was real, but like I actually can do it now.
Yeah, that was my one experience, one reading in particular. And sometimes they were just awful. Like I couldn't connect, none of it was making sense. But
That's
I think
development.
yeah, I was going to say, it's all part of us learning from making the mistakes is how we learn. I mean, in your regular life and also in your mediumship development, I think we learn by making the mistakes. And that's how we figure out how to do it better or more correctly or whatever. But yeah, it was sitting in a circle. And I remember I was sitting with a lady, and I'm not the most clairvoyant medium, but I could see this man in my head. And so I'm talking about this man, and I said, he feels like he was very much in love with you. And she said, yes. And I said, I don't feel like you were married, but I feel like that's where it was headed. Yes, she was engaged. And I said, he's claiming responsibility for his passing. And she said, yes, he committed suicide. And it took me a while to figure out how I was going to say that, because that's the one thing you don't want to be wrong on. At least at that time, it's like, I don't want to be wrong on that. So it really took me a while to say it. So then I'm like, okay, maybe this stuff has something to it. So I said, okay, let's play a game. I said, is it okay if I try and get his name? And she said, sure.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm trying to figure out so I'm going through the alphabet, and I said, okay, I'm going to the letter S. And she said, yes, his name starts with an S. Well, my husband's name is Steve. So of course that's the first name that I pick. I said, okay, his name is Steve. I only said it because my husband's name is Steve. And she said, yes, his name was Steve. And I was like, I think I need to go outside for a minute. And she said, I think I do too. So we stepped outside, and then Irene yelled at us because we had ruined the energy of the room there was a flow of energy going, and us getting up in the middle of it and going out the front door ruined the energy, and which I had no idea what she was talking about, building the energy in the room. And, so it was fascinating. I was lucky to have Irene in my life. And I do believe that spirit brings to us just the right people at the right time. Whether or not we choose to engage with that person is on us, because we have free will. But when those things happen, it makes me wonder how many times in my life did spirit bring me just the right person, and I turned them away because for whatever reason. I'll never know. I'm sure when I get on the other side, I'll be told about it. But
we have so many different opportunities, and sometimes we can only just, with what our current knowledge is, choose something more so like one of the choices, but sometimes we surprise ourselves.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, it's been a great journey. It's not been without some challenges. I mean, there are days that you go, okay, I can't do this anymore. This is just too much. And really, for me, it never has anything to do with spirit. It's always
Right.
people.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, okay.
people
Yeah,
that,
that
you
makes
know,
sense.
you have to get thick skin if you're going to do this work, I think. And you have to be okay with who you are. And if you have integrity and you're authentic in what you're doing, you just have to let other people not deter you from what you know, how your soul wants to express itself in the world. You know,
Absolutely.
not everybody should be a medium, I don't think.
Yeah.
But if your soul wants to express itself in the world this way, it's almost like you can't get away from it. Even when you try, you can't get away from it.
It's that magnetism. It is what it
Mm-hmm.
is. It's calling
Absolutely.
you.
Yes.
Um, yeah, there's correct. There are things within the work that are just naturally heavy, and you're dealing with a lot of people's stuff or their family stuff for good reason. That's your job. But yeah, if you may, like, can you describe some of the moments within your life within this work where you're like, that just, I need a break. I need a break.
Again, that mostly comes from people,
Yes.
and
Yes.
their judgment or pretty much their judgment. Let's put it that way. That I don't know that I want to say it, but I'm going to say it. It's not even people that I'm reading for. It's other mediums. It's like we should be
Oh,
supporting each other.
got it.
We should
Yeah.
be uplifting each other. And who cares who's charging what or what's teaching or who they're partnering with or who they've aligned themselves with? What does it matter if they're happy in their work? Be happy in yours and let them be happy in theirs. But I find, a lot of that that goes on.
Yes.
That just makes you go, I don't know that I want to do this anymore. But yeah, they're few and far between for me now. It was more earlier on it was when I was doubting myself and how far do I take this? Should I be doing that? And then you get the criticism, that you go, okay, maybe I should not be doing this. And I will say lately, I've been so very blessed to have had many amazing opportunities fall in my lap in the last year that I was so excited that I said yes to everything. And
Awesome.
now I'm finding, I overextended myself. And so I think next year not quite do so much, because what I'm finding is I have no downtime, very little downtime. I'm constantly trying to stay on top of things. And where I used to, have time to prepare and that kind of thing, now I'm finding that's like, oh, this is coming up today. Okay, let me get it done today because I don't have any other choice. It's happening today. So yeah, I would give myself more days in between.
That makes sense. Yeah. Our energy changes so much within this work. So, like certain years, all that opportunity might be just what the doctor ordered. And then other years, it's like, this is great, but I kind of need a little bit of a different, configuration so I can think straight.
Right. And here's the thing, we don't think about the glitches that can happen. Myself, the last 2 days, my Wi-Fi went out. Well, I'm
Whoa.
teaching, I'm mentoring, I'm teaching, I'm doing healing sessions, those kind of things from home, and no Wi-Fi. Like, it's gone. The whole street, no Wi-Fi. And it would be like, it's going to be back at 10 o'clock tonight. No, it's going to be tomorrow. So I'm having to now figure out where I can go to get Wi-Fi so that I can hold my classes, because it's not fair to people that have set their time and schedule aside. So yeah, I was lucky that there's a local hypnosis shop that I said I'm friends with them, and I said, "Help me, I need Wi-Fi." So they let me come in and use their office. So it
But
worked
like
out. But yeah, it's just like all those things that I didn't get done because I'm relying on the Wi-Fi.
you're oh yeah, that's a predicament. That's a predicament. I mean, that needs to be in place because now you have the opportunity to connect with people around the world.
Yes, yes. Um, the beauty of the pandemic, I guess, is that it brought us together through different, Zooms, StreamYard, all these wonderful opportunities to come together no matter where you live. And there
Yeah,
are people that I've met and worked with that I am absolutely fallen in love with. And I've never, ever met them in person. And that's the beauty of this kind of an opportunity. But yeah, when somebody pulls the plug, yeah, you have to rearrange, and the grandkids, no TV, no phones.
whoa, everything really does go out.
Yeah. And I think we're all aware of but when it actually happens, then you're thinking, okay, I think I need to be better prepared should this happen again. So
Absolutely.
I'm glad it's
Absolutely.
up today. It came back on last night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Whoever the Wi-Fi gods are, thank you.
I do think like that's like another thing as well. How can I'm trying to conceptualize it a little bit. So life and spirit helps us to change and grow, and they put us in all these different situations. But when we have too much going on, maybe we want to change, or maybe we want to maneuver with the Wi-Fi, let's say, but we're juggling at such a rate, even with things that are not obvious to, let's say, the physical things we're doing. We just feel so compressed.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's interesting because the conversation that you had in the beginning, the talk that you had about the nothingness, the black, that kind of thing. When the Wi-Fi went out, and I'm thinking, well, I really should get out there and pull some weeds in the garden, but all these things that like I have the opportunity to do. But it was almost like my connection to spirit had been unplugged at the same time, because I'm used to being on the Wi-Fi, on the computer, and doing spiritual things or readings or getting ready for DEMS or whatever it is that I'm doing, or getting ready for a class. And then I'm like, okay, spirit, what do I do now? And it was like crickets, like nothing. So yeah, there's a lot of plugins that got undone, I think.
They're like, we have to strip this away. Yeah, it's for me. Sometimes it's like we need you to use a different energy. You're doing too much of this.
Mm-hmm.
And even if they tell me sometimes, since you can understand, Luann, you're so used to having a certain schedule, and there's so much, let's say, positivity that comes from that, and they're like, okay, we just want you to go outside and go for a walk. And you're like, oh, yeah, I do too. But like, I don't normally do that at this hour. So I'm going to resist it.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because when you were talking about the nothingness, and our resistance and all that kind of thing, it's like when we're really busy, we're striving to get to that nothingness, which to me is like the stillness, the balance. We're striving because we're so busy doing all these things that's what we're craving, is that nothingness. I don't have anything to do. And yet then when the nothingness shows up, we're like, well, I don't know what to do with that. Like I have things I need to do. I got to keep busy. I can't stop and just be in the nothingness. And I think sometimes you're absolutely right. Spirit is saying, even though you may not realize it's coming from spirit, they're presenting you with that nothingness to just be, because I don't think we do enough of that. I don't.
No. And for the people who have, let's say, checked off their list, I think it's a very foreign feeling when they get everything done.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. My list is never done.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, my list is never done, but I know there's people who, I mean, sometimes it is, but then I'm like, oh, wait.
Yeah,
Oh
it's
my
just
God, I forgot this
lists
and I forgot
after
that.
lists after lists after lists after,
Yeah,
it never ends. It never
I'm.
ends.
This is
Yep.
one of many. Yeah, just stacks of paper always.
All over, everywhere. Yes. I almost envy the people that can do all this stuff. Like, they have all the files, and I can't. I gotta
I
have the paper.
can't. I mean, it gets
And then I lose
some
the
people
paper.
are super tech savvy and that's how they focus, but for
Mhm.
me, like, it would all get lost. I have to like touch it, to go like, oh, okay, this is, where is it?
Right, that's it. We write it all down, then we go, all right, where's that piece of paper? It's buried with the other 50 pieces of paper.
Or
I get
it's
it.
even buried in the files. So what are some of the, so we're talking about like lists, right? And like trying to, I guess, self-actualize. I shouldn't say just trying. I should say self-actualizing, because the trying part's exhausting. But have you on your journey had certain goals within your development as you've moved forward where you're like, okay, yeah, I did accomplish that.
I don't know that I ever did that.
Cool. I want to hear about it.
I kind of let the opportunities come to me. I do the
Yes.
best I can with what I'm doing. So I don't know. I don't know that I have goals for anything. Isn't that awful?
No, it's not. And
You asked
everyone
the
works so
question, and I'm like,
differently.
I don't know that I have any goals.
I think that's important because I think a lot of people think very differently with how they manifest or how they are themselves. And I think sometimes there's not enough representation of how people attract things to them.
Hmm.
It's not
But
one
yeah,
size fits all. So I'd love to hear how, yeah, like, how did things come to you? Were you just like, that sounds nice, I wonder when that's going to happen? Or like, how does it go for
I
you?
don't know. I think I've just been really diligent with my development, which had brought the right people to me for me. And through those associations with the peoples that I've worked with, opportunities have come to me. And I think that's spirit brought me the right people for me. Just because they're right for me doesn't mean they're right for other people. But I've been really fortunate to work with some humble
Yeah.
mediums and teachers that just give so much of themselves. And I keep telling them that's a person I aspire to be someday. Is so if that's a goal, I don't want to be them. I remember when speaking of Lisa Williams, the reason I got drawn to her was she had a TV show called Life Among the Dead, I think was the name of it. If that's not
Yeah,
the
I
right
think
name, I apologize.
no, it's that sounds right. Life Among the Dead. I think that's right.
I
I
think
think that's
that's it.
right.
So
Yeah.
she was on TV, and I would watch the episodes, and I would say to myself, oh, someday I want to be just like Lisa Williams. Someday I wanted to be just like Lisa Williams. Because I was so impressed with the quality of her work. And then when I had a better connections with spirit as I was learning, they literally said to me, you don't want to be Lisa Williams. You don't want to be anybody else. You just are trying to find yourself. So
Yeah.
work on yourself and don't try to be somebody else. So
Absolutely.
I think I've stuck with that. I'm a whole lot older than a lot of people that are doing this stuff. So I've had a lot more lessons. But I'm okay with who I am because I know at the core of me, I treat people the best that I can. Do I screw up? I do screw up sometimes. And I look back and I would have handled that different. But I don't ever intentionally try to bring anything that's not the highest and best for them.
Absolutely.
And I've heard it said, I wish I could claim that, but I can't. But you always want to leave people better than you found them. And that's kind of what I live. I don't know who said it, and then I had read it or heard it. And I thought, that's really for mediumship or healing. That's a beautiful way to look at the work. Do the best you can. Try to leave them better than you found them. And if you've done your best, that's all you can do. If it's not enough, it's still the best you got.
Exactly. It's a very good energy to be in. And we're all human though,
Mm-hmm.
we're all human and we just do the best that we can with some of the things that you've been a part of too. I wanted to ask from the perspective too, as well, of Serenity Guides, like that just kind of come to you, or were you like, I want to do a development, school. I want to do a business where I can, give people
Do you
an
really want to know where
opportunity.
it came from?
Yes, of course.
So in order to develop, because I didn't have, back in the 90s, there was no teachers of mediumship. You couldn't, look it up.
In America, there wasn't.
Yeah, for sure. So I had space in my basement, and I created a classroom in this room. And so I would put, it may still be around. I think it was called Meetup. But you would post, oh, I'm going to have this class. And so I would say, okay, this week the theme is auras. This week the theme is clairvoyance. This week the theme is whatever. I wouldn't have a clue anything about it. So then I would spend 2 weeks putting together this class, but I was learning while I was doing it.
Yes.
And so then there were a group of us that, really wanted to develop together. So that me throwing those classes out there brought the people together that allowed us to develop together. And so then we were thinking, well, we should name our group. It wasn't a business back then. So back in the day, we were sitting on the porch smoking cigarettes and drinking beer and saying, okay, what would be a really cool name? And we said, well, we're trying to develop with the goal maybe of bringing serenity to people. And if we thought, somebody said, well, we're kind of guiding them. We can't give it to them, but we can guide them. So maybe we'll be Serenity Guides. So that was the original name of the group. And then years later, when I decided I probably should register a business, because I was doing so much work, I kept the name. So yes, it was a few cigarettes and a couple of bottles of beer that got us the name.
Did you toast afterwards, at least?
I guess, yeah. It was a long conversation when we were out there about, because you're muddling around a million names of, ooh, we're going to have this little development circle, and what should we call ourselves? And it ended up being Serenity Guides, and I've just kept it.
It's a great name. And how has it evolved over the years? You said, originally it was just bringing people together, and then it became a business. So how did that go?
As in life, people's desires change. People move on. I mean, many of them that were coming were quite young, and then they get married and they have children, and life goes on, and they don't really have the time to devote to the development. So it ended up, Serenity Guides is just one guide. It's just me. There's no more guides. There's just a guide. But it's hard. I don't know that I've actually thought about the whole process of how things developed. Because we said earlier, we met in 2013. I actually became an LLC in 2016. So there was another 3 years of developing and learning, but I was just guided to, I worked with Tony Stockwell, who love me some Tony Stockwell. For anybody that's out there that doesn't know Tony Stockwell, he's wonderful.
Yes.
I love Tony. And then I worked with Mavis and other people, along the way, that every single person has brought me something. I can't say that I took everything that every single teacher gave me, but I took something from all of them. And then there's an organization called the International Spiritualist Federation. I don't know if you're aware of it.
Oh,
It's shortened, it's the ISF. Their website
is
is
it like
the.
the SNU, if I may ask? Is it like the
No,
SNU? Okay.
it is not, because they're not connected to churches or anything like that. That's not to say there aren't, I call it ISF, International Spiritual Federations, ISF. It's not that there aren't people that are members of the ISF that don't have churches, but they're not necessarily connected. You don't have to be a member or whatever to have a church, and nothing against SNU or NSAC. It's just a different organization. And there are three aspects to it: philosophy, mediumship, and science. Mediumship could be trance, physical, readings, demonstrations, whatever. But their goal is to teach throughout the world and allow people to experience and develop reputable teachers. They just had their USA event in New Jersey, which I went to 2 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
And there was spirit artists. We did mediumship, mesmerism, trance mediumship, trance healing. So there were all aspects of mediumship.
Yeah. Wait,
That
so is this
we learned about.
is this like a conference then?
Their conference is in June.
Okay.
So it was like a smaller. It's the one in England this year. So I will tell you, the International Spiritualist Federation is having their 100th anniversary this year.
Whoa.
And every year they have they call it Congress somewhere in the world. I've been to Scotland, then it was in New York, then I went to England. I mean, I've been a lot of places. This year it's at Arthur Findlay College. So exciting.
Yeah.
A place I didn't think I'd ever get to. And I've been blessed to be asked to teach while I'm there, for the ISF. So it's really, really exciting. And then I'm going to stay an extra week and take classes because I'm already there. So why not do that?
It makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense.
But yeah, they're a fabulous organization that I've fallen in love with. And I've learned a lot from them and with them, and I'll support them any way that I can. Matter of fact, they have I think it's April 30th. They just put it together. There's a 2.5 hour, 3 hour mediumship event. So there's 5 mediums, and one person's going to do a trance demonstration. But it's the president, the vice president, and then there are 3 others of us that are going to be mediums. So it's going to be fun.
Is this online or in person?
It's going to be online. It's going to be online. Yeah.
So
if you go to their website, theisf.com, it's there. Easy to remember.
Will it be on your website too, if someone wants
I have it. They just sent the flyer out, so I haven't even had a chance to advertise it yet. But yeah, it's a fundraiser for the ISF. Their first president was Arthur Conan Doyle, who wrote Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
They have a fabulous history.
Yeah.
Really amazing history. And
he's a spiritualist, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. I was familiar with him being a spiritualist, but I didn't know he created or he was a part of something like fundamental.
Yeah,
right.
He was their first president. So it'll be 100 years this year. So yeah, big stuff happening for them.
Well, I was already curious. Now I'm kind of more curious. It's a good selling point, right? It's just like, the foundations are intense. Come and check out the events and what makes them and unique, and the demonstrations involved and the courses or the teachings that they have. I'm really curious. I'll check it out too. What do you have additionally going on this year as well? Because
My
you
God.
said, you were like, oh my gosh, I've said yes to too many
I'm
things
trying to
again.
think. So this month I'm going to be in upstate New York it's called New York Shift, which is like a vendor event. I don't do a lot of vendor events, but it just happens to be in Oneonta, New York, and my cousins live there. So I thought it was a good reason to go.
Hey,
So I'm going to be doing healing there. I find mediumship a bit overwhelming at a vendor fair. If you've never done it at a vendor, it's tough.
I agree with you.
There's too much exterior.
Yes.
Um,
Some
so
people, they
yeah.
vibe with it, and my brain's too busy sometimes to,
Mhm. And I
you
want
know
to
what I
walk
mean?
around and see all this stuff.
Right. Yeah. There's just so much yep. There's so many different directions
Right.
around you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm
I
doing
hear
that at the
you.
end of this month. Then I have the ISF event. And then May 5th. There's an event here in Maryland, which is I'm going to do demonstration of mediumship. There's a demonstration of aura photography, and a man
Whoa.
by the name of Roland Budahawk, who's from New Jersey, is a fabulous healer, is going to do this big group healing. Then in June is Arthur Findlay College. Trying to think. Maybe going to Newfoundland in August. I was invited to go there. So we'll have to see if we can make that work. Then I'm also going back to England in September I was asked to be a part of its International Mediums Week. And it's a place run by Joe Bradley, who I don't know if you don't know Joe Bradley. She's a transfiguration physical medium.
I'll have to check her out, Joe Bradley. That sounds. Her
Yeah,
first name sounds familiar with like what I remember of trans medium. I have to look. I have to look.
yeah, she does trance work. She does physical mediumship. She just opened a center over there called Hope Spiritual Center. So I'm going to be going over there and working for a week. I'm doing, oh gosh, I don't remember, teaching beginner trance. I'm going to work with Joe with transfiguration. I think I'm doing sound healing. I'm doing an art thing. I'm just playing.
Yeah, no, you're just playing
Yeah, I'm just playing.
with
And then I've got
trans.
some retreats and stuff coming up. So yeah, I'm
Oh, that's right.
busy.
You're busy. What kind of retreats? So people know like what resources that you can provide.
We've done a number of them, right? The one I'm doing in October is a spiritual art retreat where we're going to be just exploring working with spirit in different forms of art and drawing mandalas and orographs. And we haven't really put the whole thing together yet, but that's coming. I've done healing retreats, mediumship retreats, trance retreats. I work with a group called Highly Intuitive Kids, which
That's
is
great.
a group for children that are sensitive and can feel spirit. So I've done retreats for them. So yeah, I got my hands in too many pots, I think, but
And
I'm
so are
enjoying
these
it.
all like in the East Coast or like
Um,
Maryland?
Most of them, yeah, will be in Maryland. The retreats that I do are mostly in Maryland. I've done them in other places, but I've kind of stuck to Maryland. And then COVID came and the whole retreat thing kind of went out the window. And
It's true.
so I'm now just exploring again, doing retreats. So, but I like it.
But there's like a lot of good things that you're doing.
But I'm
And
having
I
fun and I'm
sometimes
loving it.
I sometimes ask people like, "Oh, like what are you craving for this year? Like where does your energy like where is it leading you?" Cuz some people are like, "Oh, like I've been really called to heal this year or to teach or do more mediumship." So, do you find yourself like that or do things just happen?
They've kind of come to me. I will say for the healing, there is a group that does trance healing and combines trance healing with astral travel. So it kind of came about during COVID. with a lot of people on respirators. So the astral travel became easier
Oh, wow.
to connect with the people because they were unconscious.
Yeah.
We've done, there's different people leading different groups. So it's like we try to keep constant healing going. It's just been unbelievable. Stage 4 cancer people that are healed. I will
Whoa.
tell you, my own 10-year-old grandson had a medical crisis last year where he was on life support for
Oh my gosh.
20 something days, 7 surgeries in 11 days, and
God.
he lost his small intestine through the process. They were trying to save it, and they'd take more and more and more and more and more. And he wasn't expected to survive it. And they said he'd be years on IV nutrition and feeding tubes and all of this. And it'll be a year in May that it happened. And I can tell you that this child had the benefit of the healing groups sending him healing almost 24 hours a day when he was in crisis. And he is off IV nutrition. His feeding tube is down to like 10 hours a day. They said he would have difficulty gaining weight. He probably, would stunt his height. And that he would have nutritional problems because there's no small intestine. So I can tell you last week, when he came home in June, the end of June, he weighed 55 pounds.
Oh my goodness.
When he got weighed last week, he is 85 pounds. He has grown 2 inches in height.
Yes.
And that's when they dropped another 2 hours off his feeding tube, and he's down to 10 hours. And they said they thought that would be a lifelong thing.
Wow.
And I will tell you, he is the norm, not the exception for people that are getting this kind of healing. So it's been just unbelievable what is happening. Like I said, stage 4 cancers, that the cancer is gone and people are just thriving, being the benefit. So it's for critically ill people is what they're, or either critically ill or a diagnosis that says you've short lifespan.
What how big is the group of people, or what kind of group setting facilitates this?
It's all done online right now, unless we're getting together. I mean, at the ISF event, we did trance healing for one of the people. So what happened is we all got this training through Robin Hodson, who's the president of the ISF, for trance healing and a way to astral travel to the people. And so people that were interested in this signed up. And in the beginning, we were all kind of just willy-nilly doing it when we can with a few scheduled times. And then there were several of us that said that we wanted to devote ourselves to this. And so we formed different groups. So there's one, I don't think there's any there's one on Sunday night. I was going to say, I don't think there's any on Saturdays. But the other 5 days of the week and Sunday night, there is a healing group. And you can either go to one regular, or you can cherry pick when you can make one. You don't have to say, I'm in this group or I'm in that group.
That's
and
important.
We've just been doing what we do, and magic is happening.
I mean, it's so important to have well, of course, community like that, but when you are doing something like with synergy for that much of a needed outcome, it's huge. It's huge. And yeah, to promote with ISF that there's these healing groups where people can work together and do that, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, the lady that runs the groups, that's kind of the overall person. His name is Nancy Ryall, and she is associated with Crumbaugh Church in Leroy, Illinois.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's CRUMBAUGH, and they have Sunday spiritualist church services and that kind of thing. And I think they've just opened up on Tuesday, excuse me, Tuesday evenings, a healing group for those that are not critically ill, but that are in need of healing.
That's good to know. That's good
So
to
they
know.
just started that one. My trance group is on Tuesday night, so I can't do that one. So I can't tell you too much about it. But
Well, there's
but
so
there's
many.
really great things going on in the world with spirits.
You have to find the group you gravitate to, and it's wonderful to talk about this because people can be a part of it and go, is this for me? Or do I want to continue to search for something really true to my heart? Because there's a lot of searching, and you got to find what really makes your soul come alive. And so it's wonderful. So where can people find you so they can find about these different resources or what the events that you're doing? What's your website or your social
Probably
media?
the easiest way is either on Facebook, Louanne Beecher. There I'll be.
Okay.
It'll say Louanne Beecher Serenity Guides, even though it's only one guide.
Well, no, hey, there's spirit too.
There are spirit guides for sure. And then my email is serenityguides@yahoo.com. So that's probably the easiest way to reach out. I think, it's interesting for those people that would be interested in like trance healing. So in these groups that we're doing, we're not doing the healing. We're just holding the space for healing and inviting spirit to come in and do the healing. So it's not, you don't have to have Reiki or healing touch or any special anything. But I know that there's a lot of people at home that love volunteering, and yet they're not, with everything that's happened with the pandemic, there's people that still are just not comfortable being in like with a group of people, or you have your own health issues that you're, compromised or something. And so, being out in public is not the best choice for you. These are volunteer things that you can do at home.
Yeah.
So it's great opportunities for those people that have that kind of an interest.
It's perfect. It's perfect to share. It's perfect to talk about for all those reasons. So I want to also ask you, as we come to a close, it goes by so quick. What is a piece of wisdom or an inspiration that you have just off the top of your head from spirit, even of what you'd like to share with the audience of what's something that's very important to you that
I
you
would
just
love to say that I had some great words of wisdom.
You do.
But I will tell you, James Van Praagh said once, what other people think of you is none of your business. So I would just encourage people, stay in your lane, do you, be kind, be authentic in who you are, and wonderful things will come to you if you just be you, put yourself out in the world in the best way you can. And that's where the magic happens.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The authenticity, it's so simple, but that's where the magic happens. Thank you so much, Luann, for being with us today. I loved hearing your story. You cracked me up and many times. And yeah, there's so much. We didn't even get to trance. We didn't even get into more healing with some of the stories. So you're always welcome on in the future.
Thank
But
you.
thank you. Absolutely. Thank you for providing so many options for people listening if they want to expand what they're doing with this work. With that said, I'm going to send you love, and I'm going to tell everybody, please go with love, luck, and light. We will see you next week. Our guest is Colby Rebel, and we have the reading show on Friday too, and the interview series on Wednesday. So we mix it up. So yeah,
Awesome.
we have awesome people.
Colby Rebel. Gotta love
Colby
her.
I love you and I love her. So
I
we
love
have
you
gorgeous
too.
people. Sending so much love to you, Luann. Please go with
Back
love,
at you.
luck, light, and don't forget to live, everybody. See you next week. Bye.
Bye.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTKDB.com.